Projectile motion is the application of quadratics. So when kids start to figure out how am I going to use this, when am I going to use this, they realize it's right there. So looking at this, let's recall some information from here. We talked about these yesterday and the day before. It says write an algebraic expression, the sum of 19 and C. The sum of 19 and C.
19 plus C.
19 plus C. Because what is the operational phrase that's important here? Sum. And remember, when we see an of, we need to look for a what? An and. Do I see an and?
Yes.
I see it right here. That tells me where the plus sign goes. Any questions there? 17 less than a number n. 17 less than a number n. Less than is a turnaround because of which word? Than. So, how would I write this? N minus 17. So, what's in the front goes where?
To the back.
And what's in the back goes where?
To the front.
Any questions there? Also get in the habit of circling your correct answers. That way you can see your answers more easily, and it makes it easier for me to give you good feedback whenever I'm doing your actual notes. That's a big thing. Overall, everybody in here, with the critiques I gave, especially with my boys, y'all have gotten better about your writing, especially with me being able to read it. That's a big thing for me, because if I can't read it when you're doing quizzes and tests, I can't get partial credit, and that's the biggest thing I taught y'all, right? Because in the math classes beyond me, they're big about writing as well, because proving your answers is a big part of algebra. It's a big part of science. It's a big part of math. It's just something that you need to know. Also in English, if you can't write, that's kind of hard when you have to do peer review. So, twice P. Peer review means that your peers read your paper and give feedback. That's a part of English, especially English too, because you have a writing portion of your state test. It's a two-part test. It's over 2 days. So, twice P. 2P, because twice means what operation? Multiplication, and multiplication by what? 2. Any questions? Any questions on this first recall? Okay, so remember the 3D process. Define, do, decide. If you're someone that needs to write that, remember part A is the define step, meaning you're defining your variable. Part B is the do step, where you're writing and solving your equation. And the C part is the decide part, meaning you're writing your answer with the correct values or units. So, the steps here say write an equation for the solution, then solve it. From the situation, then solve it. Sam bought candy from the store for $8.50. She spent $3.75 on M&Ms and bought 5 bags of gummy worms. How much did each bag of gummy worms cost? So, what information is important here? She bought candy from the store for $8.50.
She spent $3.75.
How
much did each bag of gummy cost?
So, what would be my variable that you want to use? X is perfectly fine. It's the most consistent one. And what should it represent? Cost of gummy worms. I heard someone say that. How would I write this equation? What would be my constant? What would be my coefficient?
$8.50 is your cost.
Are you sure about that?
Well, no.
That's your total. So, which one's your constant and which one's your coefficient?
5.
5 is your what?
Constant.
Coefficient. Because 5 goes with what? X, the gummy worms. So how would I write that? 5x plus 3.75. Because, will the amount that she paid for the M&Ms ever change? No. She paid that much. It is what it is. Okay? So, what comes after that? Equals $8.50. Absolutely. Any questions there? Everybody still with me? How's everybody feel? Good, bad, ugly? Well, not you physically ugly, but emotionally ugly. Everybody good? So how do I solve this?
Minus 3.75.
Minus 3.75 on both sides. I absolutely agree. So what's coming down?
8
And then 850 minus 3.75. Give people time to type it in. I'll tell you when. I'm typing it along with you so I can show you that it's applicable to be done at the same time. Y'all already know that, but some of us need to be reminded, and that's okay. What'd y'all get? 4.75. Divide both sides by 5.
equals.
Give people time. X equals. Savon. I said give people time. What'd y'all get?
0.95.
So, how would I write this as my answer?
95 cents.
95 cents. Remember, that's the cent sign, okay? If you put 95 cents like this as well, that's also okay. Both are applicable answers. I will accept both. But I will not accept it if it does not have a unit. You already know I'm going to take some points off of there.
Will they put a 0 for 95?
Baby, that's fine. It's still mathematically equivalent. It's okay. Any questions? It says, but what if there are missing multiple items? Meaning there's more than one piece missing out of this. So let's look at those kind of examples. Sam bought 12 bags of candy from the store. She bought M&Ms and gummy worms. She bought twice as many M&Ms than gummy worms. How many of each kind of candy did she buy? Start with the item you know nothing about. Which item is that? So let's look back at our question, right? What's important information for me to mark in here?
12 bags of candy.
12 bags of candy in total, right? What else?
Twice as many than gummy worms.
She bought twice as many M&Ms than gummy worms.
How many of each kind of candy did she buy?
Absolutely. So we're trying to answer how many of each kind. Okay? So, looking at this, which one do you know nothing about?
Gummy.
Gummy worms, right? So, that's going to be what we find first. Take a second. Give me just a minute. This will be your variable. Use that variable to write an expression for the other items. So we're going to say that this is X. The reason why this works is because there's twice as many M&Ms as gummy worms. From there, we can then figure out how to write expressions to talk about both of them. Everybody still following me? This one's a little bit more complex. That's why I really wanted us to be here, and I'm glad everybody's here. I really appreciate y'all wholeheartedly. Give me just a minute. So, how does M&Ms compare to gummy worms?
Twice as many.
There's twice as many. So, twice is what operation?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. So, how would I write twice as many M&Ms? 2x. You said it, because we said gummy worms has to be what variable? X. Meaning gummy worms is our X, still from what we said right there. Everybody still with me? Now we're going to take both items and add them to get our total. So we have M&Ms is what? Plus gummy worms, which equals what? 12 altogether. And now we solve this. So, what's the first step I need to do? Combine like terms. So what's 2x plus x? Because there's a 1 there. 3x equals what? 12. From there, how do I get x by itself? Divide 3 on both sides. What's brought down? And what's being typed in? 12 divided by 3, which is?
4.
So, use this to answer the question above. So, what does x represent? Gummy worms. So, how many bags of gummy worms did she buy? 4. So, she bought 4 bags of gummy worms. We're then going to use that to plug it into this, right? So, how would I plug that in to find my M&Ms? 2 parentheses what? 4. Mm-hmm. Equals what? So how many bags of M&Ms? 8. Check. Do these add up to equal 12? What is 8 plus 4? Any questions there? Any questions on this? Everybody with me? Okay, let's keep going. Let's look at example number 2. On a test, the highest grade was 23 points higher than the lowest. The sum of the two grades was 151. What was the lowest grade? What information do we know?
The highest grade was 23 points.
The highest grade was what?
23 points higher than the lowest grade.
You see how we had to add more context there? What else? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. What question are you trying to answer?
What was the lowest grade?
So start with the item you know nothing about. So what item do I know nothing about? The lowest grade. Because the highest grade is being compared to the lowest grade. So, what represents the lowest grade? What variable? X. And how do I find the highest grade? What about it? Huh? How would I find the highest grade if it's being compared to the lowest grade? What information tells me that in the statement above?
The grade was 23 points higher.
So how would I translate that into an expression?
23x?
Mm-mm.
Minus 23?
No. Why would you ever multiply something that says higher?
Plus 23 equals 151.
Not quite, baby. I'm not looking for an equation. You gave me too much. Pull back a little bit.
Plus 23? Minus?
Mm-mm. Kylan was the most correct. You just gave me too much. I don't need an equation. Give me an expression. So retry that. How would I write the highest grade as an expression? Meaning I don't need the equal sign.
Plus 23.
What though? You're missing something. So put it together.
X plus 123. I mean, not 123.
You got it.
X plus 23x.
That's perfect. Not 23x. X plus 23. You had it. So, because they said what? The highest grade was what? 23 points what? Then what? So higher means you're doing what? Increasing or decreasing? But that's through addition, not multiplication. Any questions there? Write down these pieces because this is what helps you understand how to do it on your own. Because I told the group yesterday, rewatching the videos helps a lot because you're getting the lesson 2 times over. Things that you might have missed the first time, you can go back and hear it. But if you're not writing anything, period, expecting an outcome that's different than what you're preparing for is asinine. Be for real, okay? Let me use a different word. It's ludicrous. Let me use a different word. It's ridiculous. Should we keep simplifying the word? It's dumb. Don't do it, okay? So, if you see me barking this and putting a plus sign and saying it's being compared to that, write that piece in. That way you know what's going on. How would I set up the equation here? X, because that's the lowest. What goes behind it?
22.
Just 22.
Why define the actual expression if you're not going to use it? What represents the highest grade? What was written? The highest grade. So that whole thing has to go in there, or else it is not true. What's the total? This is where the algebra really kicks in. You have to know what you're doing. How do I solve this? Not quite. Combine like terms, because I have two x's on that side. What's x plus x? So what comes down? What do I do to solve this two-step equation? What's being brought down? What's being typed in? Absolutely, everybody should be typing that in. Don't say it out loud. Give your people time. Right, Stavon? Give people time to type it in while you also typing it in. I'll tell you when. What'd y'all get? Doubt that. 128. Then what do I do from here? Divide both sides by 2. What's being brought down? X equals. I didn't ask all that. What's being typed in?
128 divided by 2.
Y'all gonna learn eventually. Don't rush the process. This is the problem. Y'all couldn't even tell me what goes in the place of the highest grade. So do you think I want you to rush this? The answer is no. Type in 128 divided by 2, please. What'd y'all get? Thank you. So what does this represent? The lowest grade, because what is X? So what's the lowest grade? How do I find the highest grade?
F23.
So how would I rewrite that?
64.
Type that in. Give your people time. What'd y'all get?
87.
So what's the highest grade?
87.
Do they add up to get 151? What do y'all say?
Yes.
So are these two the right answers?
Yeah.
Any questions? This one is more involved. The sum of 3 consecutive integers is 57. Find the integer. The real question is, what does consecutive mean? What does consecutive mean? Give me an example of something that's consecutive. No, not repeating. Nope. What's the most consecutive thing that happens in math?
Division.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Math.
Nope. In math. You can't just say math. See? Nope. No. Consecutive. No. Where would you hear the phrase consecutive used in real life?
Producing.
Huh?
Producing.
How so? Context.
Like on like a show or something.
Like consecutive? You mean executive?
Probably.
An executive producer is different than a consecutive thing. But I see where your brain was going. Consecutive. So, yeah. Here's the thing. Those who are sports people, you're not very good sports people. Because y'all use the word consecutive the most out of anybody that's a non-math related profession. So,
Don't that mean doing something like
Over.
again?
it doesn't mean over and over. It means something different. Because that you were saying over and over is the same thing as saying Stavon saying repeating. That's not what consecutive is. So my sports people ain't too good at it. And the crazy thing is somebody in here is a Chiefs fan and does not know what consecutive means. That means one after the other. So let's bring that back to how that goes to the Chiefs. They won 2 consecutive Super Bowls. That's one after the other. No, it's one after the other. That's not what repeat means. And y'all want to realize why I have the college degree and y'all don't? Y'all want to realize some of us read on a daily basis and some of us don't? You don't know the difference between repeat and consecutive. That's the issue. Because I just explained it to you and you go, that's the same thing. How ignorant does that sound? And yeah, this is recorded. That way you can go back and reflect on this later in life. Because you go, that's the same thing, instead of saying, oh, that makes sense. Because here's something that's consecutive in math, since you want to act like it's the same thing. Are 1 and 2 the same number? But they're consecutive. Is 3 and 2 the same number?
Because they're one after
the other. So whose definition is more correct? Mine or Kingston and Stavon's?
yours.
Wow, it's not like I got a diploma, a few degrees, got a career and a job, and I do this for a living. Wow, get humbled. Thank you. I didn't mean to serve you up like this today, but the next time you want to question what I know, you better know more than me. So, up here, consecutive means one after the other. And we're going to write that. Thank you. In order, right after another, doesn't skip anything. Does not mean repeat. Does not mean repeat. That's for the people in the future. So when Stavon and Kingston are 4 years past this video, and they just so happen to come across a little YouTube video that says Learning with Miss Lipsey, I hope they look at 2.14 and they go, oh my goodness, she mentioned me in that one. And she told me I was wrong. Never that. What clout you gaining from a teacher's Instagram or a teacher's video? Be for real. Jordan, lean up for me. So, start with the item you know nothing about. So, which item is that? None of them. We don't know anything about none of them. But we know how to get the second and third number if we can find the first. That's the biggest thing. We know how to get the second and third number if we can find the first. So we make the first number our variable. That first integer has to be our variable. So Use that variable to find or write an expression for the other items. So, you see how 5, 6, and 7 are consecutive? Because they have a space of 1 in between them. There's also such thing as odd and even consecutive numbers. What are even numbers? 2. What comes next? 4. What comes next? 6. So, what's the difference between 2 and 4? 2. What's the difference between 4 and 6? 2. You see how the space is the consistent thing. That's what makes them consistent. That's what makes them consecutive. Any questions? So, we know the first integer has to be our variable, which is what? X. How would I find the second number after that? Add to that. Should the first integer reappear if you're comparing it to the other one? How do I find out that 5 and 6 are consecutive integers? What must I do to 5? Plus 1. Notice how I brought 5 back. So what needs to be in place for the second integer? X what? Plus 1. How do I find the third integer? X plus 2. You see how the example actually helps with the understanding? It is not just there for fun. Crazy how that works. So what goes in the place of the first integer? Second? Third? And what's the total? 57, because that was given at the very beginning. How do I solve this?
3x.
How'd you get 3x?
Oh, x plus x plus x.
Because don't I have like terms? So what's x plus x plus x?
3x. Equal 5, 2 plus 1.
Because aren't those also like terms? What's 2 plus 1? So what comes behind this?
Plus 3 equals 57.
How do I solve this two-step equation? What comes down? 3x equals what's being typed in? Get that typed in, please, and thank you. What'd y'all get? 54. What do I do from there? Divide by 3 on both sides. What's being brought down? X equals. Type in 54 divided by 3, please, and thank you. What'd y'all get?
18.
So, what does this represent? The first integer, which is what?
18.
How do I find the second one?
18 plus 1.
18 plus 1. If you don't know that, shouldn't you be writing that down? Which gets you?
19.
How do I find the third integer?
18 versus 18 plus 2.
Which gets us?
20.
So the three consecutive integers are what?
18, 19.
Are they consecutive?
Yes.
Do they add up to get 57? Well, let's see. Everybody type in 18 plus 19 plus 20. Don't say it out loud. Give your people time. Did it get 57?
Yes.
So are these the correct consecutive integers?
Yes.
That's how you check. Any questions? We are going to pause it right there. Get it packed up. Don't work on anything further from this. Study only the ones that I talked through with you.